Passion is often misunderstood. It's associated with intensity, volume, big gestures, visible fire. If you care, you should look like you care. If you're committed, you should sound committed. If you're driven, people should feel it immediately. So many people learn to perform passion. They amplify tone. They exaggerate certainty. They stretch emotion outward. Not because it's fake, but because they believe that visible intensity equals legitimacy. And slowly, energy starts leaking. Because performance requires maintenance. Performance-based passion feels impressive at first. It moves quickly. It attracts attention. It energizes rooms. But it's difficult to sustain. You have to stay on. You have to maintain the emotional high. You have to project intensity even when you're tired. And when the internal state doesn't match the projected one, tension builds. You begin managing how passionate you appear, instead of simply caring. That split drains clarity. Passion without performance is quieter. It doesn't announce itself constantly. It doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't inflate emotion to prove commitment. It simply persists. You wake up. You build. You refine. You adjust. You continue. No theatrics, just movement. And that steady movement is often more powerful than dramatic spikes. Look at the difference between a flare and a furnace. A flare burns bright and fast. It grabs attention. It's hard to ignore, but it dies quickly. A furnace burns steadily. It generates consistent heat. It sustains. Passion without performance is furnace energy. It doesn't need spectacle. It produces results. And because it doesn't rely on emotional spikes, it endures. Many people confuse calm with indifference. They think if they aren't visibly animated, they must not care enough. But calm can be deeply committed. Calm can be intensely focused. Calm can carry enormous power. In fact, some of the strongest passion you'll ever witness isn't loud. It's steady. It doesn't seek applause. It builds quietly. Performance-based passion often hides insecurity. You amplify because you want to be believed. You project because you fear being dismissed. You exaggerate because you fear being overlooked. So you heighten your tone. But heightened tone without grounded stability eventually becomes exhausting. You start chasing the emotional state instead of the work itself. You feel pressure to maintain intensity. And when intensity dips, as it naturally does, doubt creeps in. Maybe I don't care enough. Maybe I've lost it. Maybe I'm slipping. But what you lost wasn't passion. It was performance. Passion without performance doesn't panic when emotion fluctuates. It understands that motivation rises and falls. It doesn't depend on feeling inspired every day. It depends on direction. Direction sustains action even when emotion is neutral. You don't need to feel electrified to move. You need to know where you're going. That clarity protects momentum. This is especially important in long-term work, creative projects, businesses, relationships, personal growth. If you rely on emotional spikes, you will burn out. If you rely on steady commitment, you will compound progress. Performance-based passion says, I have to feel it intensely or it's not real. Grounded passion says, even when it's quiet, I'm still here. That quiet persistence wins over time. There is something deeply freeing about not needing to prove your passion. You don't have to convince others you care. You don't have to broadcast intensity. You don't have to dramatize commitment. You simply do the work, and the work speaks. Over time, consistency becomes more persuasive than enthusiasm. Let's bring this into leadership. Some leaders believe they must constantly radiate intensity. They push motivational energy. They speak in peaks. They amplify urgency. It can energize short-term. But if everything is urgent, urgency loses meaning. Leadership without performance regulates tone. When intensity is needed, it rises. When steadiness is needed, it settles. That modulation builds trust. Because people don't feel manipulated, they feel guided. Performance-based passion often resists vulnerability. If your identity is tied to being the driven one, you can't show fatigue. You can't show doubt. You can't admit recalibration. But grounded passion allows honesty. I'm tired, but I'm committed. This needs adjustment. We're changing pace. That honesty strengthens systems. Because people sense when intensity is forced, and forced intensity erodes credibility. This also applies in relationships. Performance-based passion looks like grand gestures, over-the-top declarations, heightened emotional expression. It feels romantic in moments. but it's not sustainable if it's not rooted in steady care. Grounded passion looks like consistency, showing up, listening, staying, following through. No fireworks required, just reliability. And reliability is deeply attractive. Performance drains energy because it splits focus. You're not just doing the thing, you're managing how it appears. You're thinking, do I look committed enough? Do I sound confident enough? Is my energy high enough? That self-monitoring weakens presence. Passion without performance is immersive. You are in the work, not watching yourself in it. That immersion improves quality. Season 8 is about grounded power. Grounded power doesn't need spectacle. It doesn't chase adrenaline. It doesn't inflate tone to maintain image. It burns steadily. It persists quietly. It builds momentum through repetition. That steadiness increases trust, internally and externally. Because you know you're not dependent on emotional spikes. You can move even when energy is neutral. There is something mature about this shift. Early drive often relies on excitement. Mature drive relies on commitment. Excitement fluctuates. Commitment stabilizes. If you wait to feel passionate before acting, you will stall. If you act from direction, passion deepens through engagement. Engagement feeds energy more sustainably than performance ever could. Notice your own pattern. Do you amplify when others are watching? Do you feel pressure to appear intense? Do you worry that calm means complacency? What if calm is strength? What if quiet commitment is more powerful than dramatic energy? What if you don't need to look passionate to be deeply engaged? Releasing performance returns energy. Because you are no longer managing perception. You are simply building. Passion without performance also protects against burnout. Burnout often follows prolonged emotional inflation. You can't live at peak intensity forever. Eventually, the system collapses. But steady heat does not collapse. It adapts. It rests when needed. It returns without shame. That rhythm extends sustainability. This is not about dimming yourself. It's about stabilizing yourself. You can still feel deeply. You can still care intensely. You can still pursue boldly. But you don't have to display it theatrically. You let the work speak. You let consistency prove. You let outcomes demonstrate. That simplicity conserves enormous energy. Imagine building for 5 years without needing applause. Imagine working without broadcasting intensity. Imagine loving without dramatizing commitment. Imagine leading without performing strength. That stability compounds. Because energy is not wasted on image. It is invested in process. You are allowed to care deeply. You are allowed to pursue passionately. But you don't have to perform it. Let your passion be steady. Let it be consistent. Let it be quiet when necessary. And when intensity is required, let it rise naturally. Not as spectacle, but as response. That is grounded power. That is sustainable momentum. That is passion without performance. If this episode helped you feel steadier in your drive, stay with the season. Season 8 is about power that doesn't need applause. If you want to go deeper, the full book series is linked below. And if you know someone who burns bright and crashes often, send this to them. Sometimes strength isn't louder. It's longer. We continue in episode 11.